Well, you know what? That's why I had asked. I don't know if we're going to do it today or if you want to do it another time, but
We can
I don't
dig
know.
into it.
Did you
I was
look at
looking
me?
at it. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, and that's why, honey, because that's the thing that kind of stumbles me. And I had shared it with a couple close friends about the journey, how everyone will make it. And of course, they're telling me, no, you get one life and then you're dead. And then, but remember when you shared recently about the, becoming like crystal and the
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes,
and you said that the judgment was in the blood
yes,
or our blood, would
yes.
So you said that means that we will become one, in our spirit, our soul, our physical state, whole. But what about like I have this disease.
Hmm.
Last week I had a hard time. My husband dresses me, and I had a hard time, getting my food up to my mouth. And it's a progressive disease. If I don't get it all together and it doesn't happen, or in my physical body, and I have to come back, uh, I don't understand that scripture. Like it says, it's appointed unto man only once to die, and then the
Right.
judgment. I don't believe that's heaven and hell, but doesn't mean that like you were saying that this is how our blood, our DNA has. Well, if I don't get better, that means my DNA didn't change, right? That's what's on my mind.
It actually has nothing to do with your flesh.
Oh,
That should be a relief. It has absolutely nothing to do with your flesh. Our flesh suit is our vehicle that houses our consciousness, our soul, our spirit from right here. It's just our avatar, and that is temporary. It isn't eternal. It's the mask that we are playing while we're living right now. So I'm going to do a screen share because I dug at this and I want to show you this so that you can see it, because I know you've been looking at it as well. And let's make sure this is the correct one. Yeah, it is. Just making sure I did, because I probably have 5 or 6 of these open right now that I'm looking at, different verses that I've been digging out. So
can it be a tiny bit bigger?
Yeah.
Or no?
No, I can make it as big as we need to.
Yeah, just
I can slide the bar over. You're on your phone, aren't you? Or are you on your laptop?
Yeah. No,
you're on your phone. Yeah. So yeah. I do need to make it bigger. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're looking at like the roots, again, because everything with the roots, in fact, that's why I love the analogy with the tree so much, right? Because you got the root, you got the trunk, you got the branches and the leaves, and that whole analogy that you were given, we can use this. We can totally use this because the root goes down to the water source. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised, even though you were talking about fruit, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that was an oak tree, because the oak tree has the deepest taproot out of all the trees. And so it searches deep for the water. It finds it, which means it's a very strong and anchored tree.
Wow. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. In my picture, I just saw it in my head again. All these other things did have some roots down. I don't know what they were doing, but that tree has the longest roots coming down. It goes all the way into that.
Now, you want to know something really profound? I'm going to share this with you.
Okay.
Because the oak tree is actually a Hebrew word. It's AYIL. It's Aleph, Yod, Lamed. And it means it has to do with strength. It has to do with pilasters, an oak tree, and something that is mighty. It's AYIL. So we have the word for God, right? Aleph, Lamed, that has a Yod in the middle. The Yod, as you know, is like work and deed of the hand, but it's a letter that means power, and it's right here. It's right here. So a strong leader, teaching shepherd that has this staff of authority has power that they found within them. They are the strong pilasters. They are the priesthood. They are the priests. They are the strength of the ram. They are as God. So even when you were talking about the other trees being pilasters, and then that little tree that was bearing fruit, that's that Yod. That's the Yod. So that little tree that was in the middle of the garden is you right here. So you had everything that you needed. You just needed to get into that, tapping that source and not really paying so much attention to those masks, those pilasters, because you are the pilasters.
It was the
When you
true
pop
pillaster.
in,
The true,
yes,
yes. Oh, cool.
uniting
Okay.
them into one. So that
Okay.
is absolutely beautiful. I love that. We just landed the plane. So having said that,
Okay.
this kind of leads to the very first word that we look here, because, and this is what I wanted to bring forth to you so that you can understand when it's talking about death, what is it really talking about? The root of this word, as it is written, when we take it from the masculine structure of Hebrew, is the same root word that means, I'm going to show you over here. I'm not going to try to move it too fast because I don't want to get us too dizzy while we're looking. Aleph Yod Nun. This is that root word. Enoch was, and then he was not.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same one. To be nothing, to non-exist, a non-entity. When we look at that through the letters, once you find oneness unity and you find the power that is within your heart while you're in your flesh, which means oneness and power of oneness are coming side by side, because the Aleph and the Yod, remember we've talked about through toroidal or reduction math, through the gematria, Aleph is 1, 10 is, and Yod is 10. So they're really like one and the same. When those two of them are come together, you have the power of entering into that unity consciousness, into that strength, into that unseen presence that is everywhere and everyone and everything simultaneously. This is when you begin to be a non-entity. This is when the egregor of your ego diminishes and you become one with everything. This is what this very first word is trying to convey to us. And in the process of that, how it's conveying this to us, because you can see the morphing of it. So Aleph Yod Nun, this is so beautiful. So here's our Aleph, here's our Yod, and here's our Nun. So right in the middle of the word, to become nothing, to not exist, you have the Kaf. Do you remember what the Kaf was?
The cough, like where you open your hand and you grasp for something.
You're grasping power, but it's also a word that has to do with yoking and taming. So what this is dual power. This is the open hand and the closed hand. This is a hand that opens to receive and then grasps. So this word is telling us, for those who have grasped a hold of the power of them on the inside, this leads them to nothingness. But yet when they become a non-entity, they change their flesh, because this noon is not in its fallen position anymore. This is new flesh. This is something that has been raised up. This seed of life is not fallen. This seed of life is germinating into something brand new that is going to give you a strong base to stand upon, because it's not in its fallen place. And then they added the letter Aleph. So this new flesh, this new container, is going to be housing the unseen essence as absolute in a new vessel that is one with all of creation, one with the unseen essence that has now been made absolute. This isn't a perception. This is something that is concreted as is, done, finished, completed. So the trouble is, of course, as you know, if we don't see what's going on in these letters, we don't know what is this trying to say to us. Because in the English, it's like, oh, it's appointed once for man to die. Well, we're talking about a new seed planted that's going to give you new flesh, grasping the power in here. And that's how it starts out the whole verse.
Uh-oh.
Is your battery dying?
Oh, I don't think so. It says I have another
call coming in.
I'm so sorry. Let me.
It's okay.
I just push decline, right?
I think so. I don't have a smartphone.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
There you
baby.
go.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
If my battery, when my phone gets hot, sometimes it stops working. So don't worry. I'll catch up with you on another thing. I'm watching the clock. So if that happens, we will get back. But can I ask you before you continue? So we get this new flesh, and I heard you speaking about this recently, but that doesn't mean this new flesh right now. Does it mean that like fourth density or something? I'm getting a new body, or I don't understand this.
So just like Yeshua had a new body, We are being made something new. That's why the crystalline, it's interesting because I've been hearing in around about this crystalline structure that is happening within our body. And it was really important for me. Like I was feeling like a knowing, like, yes, okay, I'm feeling this as an essence. It's a perception. There's something I'm perceiving that, yes, I can feel that something new is happening. But when I saw it in Revelation 21:21 and saw that it was written 2000 years ago, that was the process that we were moving into.
That was amazing.
I was like, eureka. The other thing is that do you know who Nassim Haramim is?
The what?
His name is Nassim Haramim. He's a physicist, and he has put forth the unified field theory, which is essentially, in layman's term, the oneness of everything, that everything's interrelated. He has been changing the way physics is seeing things. And I just recently saw a conversation, or started watching a conversation with all these people about water and the crystalline structure within water, the fourth density of water, and how they are saying that we are actually moving into that. I mean, they're proving it in science. So I get information from him. I got another information about Dan White, who is another physicist that has been proving things about the toroidal fields and the energy, how it's affecting our DNA. And then we know how much we're made of water. And so these two critical pieces are coming in from physics that are then proving what I pulled out in Revelation 21:21. My husband had me look in that verse, and I was help digging something up. And then I happened to stumble upon that word, and I was like, oh my gosh, now it makes a lot of sense. This is why a lot of us are having issues with our body, or why we're having more pains, or why we're being a lot more tired than we used to with all this photon light energy, is because we're actually phasing out of this body. This body is actually physically dying so that the new can emerge. So we're all in this process of death simultaneously, all experiencing it as we are translated or transferred into a different form and structure. And this is why even some of the verses that they put in saying that some of us will not taste death, not death the way that it used to be. And we're going to get into some of this. I'm not going to go super deep in the letters unless you want me to, because I know that you've been digging some of these out, but I want to just show you some of those treasures if we can get there within the next 15 minutes, because I think we can.
Okay.
So, because it's not a long verse. So we already established kind of where it was going with the very first word. And then the mechanical translation talks about putting in placing. There is a lot here of this word, what it means. So putting and placing. So laying up, ordaining, assigning, appointing, establishing, to commit, determine, and decide. I mean, this is there's a lot of meanings to this word. And this is a word that through the letters, we have fire, which is actually the essence of the spiritual fire that is brought in. And then we have water. We have both. We have fire and water. This is the word Shem that has evolved in the middle. So those who have honor, authority, and character are of the water and the fire, and they've connected their heart. They have been appointed. It has been decided. Now, this is going to get, I think, really beautiful when we build upon this and we go down a little further. So in this process of this becoming, because that's what I'm going to say, it's a process of becoming something else, crossing over from our pause moment, crossing over, we have, there's an assessment and an evaluation and an appraisal that is put upon us. It's very interesting to see that, because this is all in the meanings of that word. And when it was written in the written form, the way it was written was Dalet Semek. So what happened? It went from a sheen to a Semek. So the door that leads to the wedding ring and the signet ring. So this is already telling you, you need to go inside. You have to deliver yourself from that place where you've separated so you can get the signet ring, wedding ring, and then you'll have the power of within to complete your journey in the waters. So it's not the waters of chaos anymore, it's the waters of shalom. And based on what I just read in the paperwork that I got sent by my friend Steve, the waters of chaos is entropy. The waters of shalom is when you start generating your own power. You don't have chaos in you anymore. your body isn't consuming itself. You're now generating from your heart. And that's why that yod mem, that yod is sharing, it's power right here. Your power center has been connected. So you're now in negentropy, which means you're self-generating energy. You're not taking, you're generating. And so the word before with new flesh, it means your new flesh is already generating its own power system. It doesn't need to be plugged into anything to continue doing that in an entropy system. This is literally like escaping the matrix, because the whole matrix, the inverted matrix, is based upon entropy. And it's meant as a catalyst to flip you so that you generate your own energy. It's so amazing.
So honey, this might not be it, so tell me, but I mean, I'm feeling like my higher self, because we live in this little time space thing, but my higher self is already there. And
yes,
and I'm already kind of living in that new body, even though this body's acting up down here. Is that possible?
Yes, it is. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. A lot of this is we already are. We just got disconnected from it because we needed to experience what separation was. So we got disconnected from that which we were, and we're going back to, so we already are. So this process of remembering, and Ken's got lots that he can share on that as well, and I'm sure we will be, is getting us back to connecting to that power source. Because we were.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
So now I want to move into the next word for human, because this is everything. I took some time on this because I was kind of shocked with what I saw. Honestly, I was shocked. The reason why I was shocked was because Janet McGeara's work and the Peshitta were saying that this root word was two different root words. She was saying that this root word comes from Barnasha, which you would be translated, you would know this phrase as son of man, and Bar being like an heir to the throne, one who's been winnowed, one who is pure and innocent, and then Nasha is a shortened form of the word Anash. Now, I'll try to slow it down a little bit so that I don't lose you in all of this. But what was so profound, that even if it was Barnasha, and they said it's from Anash, look at how it was written. Look how it was written. So there is no resh at all. The resh got dropped. So we have lamed bet. So lamed was added. We have the bet, that's there. There's no resh, none at all. And then we have noon, yod, noon, sheen, aleph. Well, if it's from Anash, well, here we have it in the same gematria form, but the first aleph was dropped. But that was because it became a yod. And we already established that the aleph and the yod are interconnected. One's the active form of the doing of it, the spark of the source of all. The other one is in its static rested form, as is everything. So instead of Barnasha, look what it spells. The very first two letters means heart. It's your heart.
Yeah.
So let's take the two words that I shared before with the new flesh and the power within. This is saying, hey guys, we're specifically talking about your heart here. Now watch this. By adding the noon to that word, now we have Leben. Leben is the word for white. I will make you as white as snow.
Oh.
Your heart has been now made white, as pure and innocent. But it's also the same word for frankincense. Frankincense is the sweet aroma. You know, myrrh is the bitter.
It's the bitter.
So you go through the myrrh treatment and the sweet treatment, Esther, before you're presented to the king. So now you have been made sweet. You're done with your bitter journey. You have now been made sweet. You have authority on your inside. Your heart has been made white. It's in the right order. But this is, again, something fascinating, because this Benai, Beni Nasha, Benai means my son. It's a possessive form of it. This is a possessive form of the father, because the yod is added on the suffix side. So the father is saying, because the leb is added, these are those who have the staff of authority, who have been made white. He is saying, these are my sons. And son is just a word that means to build, those who help build the family. So they carry the staff of authority to help build the family. These are mine. That's what this word is saying. These are mine. The Father says, these are mine. Then, so are you connecting to that? Like this is a layered upon layered upon layered. This is like
my heart is jumping.
good, because I was too.
Gosh, how I just crave this, how I just want to be that.
Oh, well, because you are. That's the thing. As it's being revealed to us, that energy is coming in, and we are being remade. We are being remade because it's here. This coding is here. Now look what happened. This is from a word when they use anash. It's from a word that means immortal. And how kind of King James to say this, or it's Strong's, that this anash is differing from the more dignified Adam. I thought that was funny. I'm like, really? You're judging? Okay, just throw that out. The dignified Adam mankind, the anash, are not dignified, whatever. It's a man in general, but when you look at the root of it, it means to be frail, feeble, or melancholy. This is the same exact word that was used when they said that the heart was
deceitful.
Fully wicked. It's this word. The heart is frail and feeble. So now when we take it into the way they wrote it, it is not that anymore. Why?
Because we have the leb. Yeah.
Because the leb is there. We have the staff of authority. It's possessive. These are my sons. It's been made white, but the aleph was added. The aleph was added on the end of the word. And because it formed another word, this noon sheen aleph. Look at this, because this is dependent upon where you are within your heart is going to be that which you are. Nasha can mean to be to lift, carry. He lifted, raised. He bore and carried, took away, carried off. He swept away. It also could be destroyed. He forgave and pardoned. He suffered and endured, was raised, exalted, respected, carried from place to place, but it also can mean deception and beguile, because it depends on the heart fire. What is burning in here? What kind of spirit is burning in here? What kind of fire are you carrying? Because it's always the condition of the heart. Are you in interpret? Are you self-serving? Is your heart consuming itself? Or is it, because if you're in entropy, that's where the deception and beguiling came from, because you never got connected to the right energy to flip your nature around. So it depends on what kind of self-ish, self-fire, self-ish, because ish is how you say fire, self-fire, self-consuming, or life-giving.
Oh, caring. And
I know.
It's not like my heart was wicked and I was just something in the dirt, but I felt that way about myself. It was just self-loathing for almost my whole life. And so I had the bell position instead of the leb position.
Yes. And so now this is saying it's flipping that nature so that it's been made white. It's been pure. It's also, I didn't put it down here. This is also the same word, this from nasa, meaning to lift and to be married. It means to be married. So when we talk about the oneness unity, it's taking your energies of the masculine and feminine and joining them together. And this is what raises us up. Now, moving on to the next word, this is where it comes into one. So when it says wants to die, right?
Yeah.
This comes from a word that means to a unit, unitedly, to become one, to unify oneself. So the way it was written, the door, you have to go into the door of the inward man in order to unite yourself and marry yourself on the inside. This is where you find life. And as soon as you find that, you've gone through the door into oneness unity. So again, layering from everything that we started, it's all coming through this. And then when we get to the next word, we're talking about a time, a season, a period, and an opportunity. So it's saying that it's appointed once for man to die. No, There is a season that is presenting itself to you, an opportunity to come. And this Zeben, this is amazing, because the Zayin also means to feed and nourish. So it does mean to cut off, you know, like the sword and the plow. So let's go back to the letter that you wrote, that download you got. So it can be the sword and the plow, but it also means to feed and nourish. And it's the word ben, to feed and nourish the son so that it can become the possessive son, my son who has been lifted up. So it's a period in time. Then we're going to land this plane. I know we only have a few minutes, but I really want you to hear this. I want to finish this.
Yeah.
I want to finish this so that you can put this one to rest, because this is absolutely beautiful. So when we have the first word for death, it's appointed once for man to die.
Yeah.
Here's death. We have noon, vav, noon. That is how you spell the symbol noon, which is a seed of life. The noon, vav, noon is the mirror. So you are already started from an elevated seed. You were already made perfect. But then death entered in because you had chaos on the inside, entropy. So you need to connect to your heart so that the covenant can then connect you while you're in the fallen flesh to see how to shatter the mirror of death. Because the whole reason for that noon, vav, lower noon, is to raise up that fallen noon to be the risen noon, like the very first word we saw, to change the flesh. But you need the mirror. You need the mirror to see it so you can do your shadow work, because you're in a death position. When it says about death, about then, after, behind, order, death, and then it says the judgment.
Yeah.
This is, you're going to love this. Batar is a word that can mean time, opportunity, and advantage. But this is also connected to the word yitar, which means a great reward, excellence, abundance, and remnant.
Wow.
The remnant. The remnant. So when they die, look at how this death is. So when they die, the waters, they connected to their heart, they completed their journey. Now it says hun, wealth and riches, dare to venture into your shadow so you can connect to the things which are fallen. Because when you do that, that's when you're going to discover your wealth and your riches. That's when you're going to discover, as the remnant, the abundance and the excellence of your inheritance. And then when we get to judgment, this whole thing is about judging us, getting into the place of oneness, unity. So when we die, the wealth and riches that we have is based upon how much shadow work we did, because the more shadow work, the more light, the more unification into oretta, into oneness, into the absolute of everything that is. And when we get there, this is why after death and why reincarnation happens, is because there's literally, you go to court. Did you find oneness, unity? And because it's noon, aleph on the end, it's like a prayer. We beseech thee, please find the seed of life that'll lead you into the oneness field, being one with everything. Because from lifetime to lifetime, you are going to have to go to court. You're going to have to go through, and there's a judgment that's being rendered. Did you go through the door of your heart? Did you find the power within? Did you raise your flesh? Did you enter into oneness, unity? So that is why the way they made it sound like that you only get to have one shot at this, right? Know. But the church, many years ago, used to teach about reincarnation. But they cut it out because at the time they were teaching it, the Catholic Church had so many abuses on the people, and the way that they were suppressing them, many people were committing suicide.
Oh.
So the Catholic, because they knew in reincarnation, the church taught it, because it's in like all the religions of the world understand this concept. It's in some of the ones that have the monotheism position that they don't, and they're like, you only have one shot, because it keeps people fear-based. It flips the order of their heart.
And the Catholic Church told people that if they killed themselves, they would go to hell.
Exactly.
And you know what? As
Exactly.
we end,
Keeping them
what you
trapped.
just read about the abundance and the inheritance, that's the little garden tree. And when you take down the shadows and you know, they're not overpowering you like that, you get more light. You get more light. So this was beautiful, honey.